Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that I think is really going to make you think differently about, well, thinking itself.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we're going to be uncovering the hidden power of language,
Okay.
um, and the idea that, it's more than just communication.
Right.
It's really like a force that shapes our thoughts,
Mm.
our beliefs, and, even maybe reality itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to get into some pretty interesting ideas.
Okay.
Like, how the words that we use might actually be able to influence things like our memories
Interesting.
and even like the structure of water. So buckle up.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I think about language, it really does work on these multiple levels, right?
Right.
There's the surface level, the words we use every day, and then there's this deeper level where,
Uh-huh.
words have these subtle meanings that can influence us in ways that we don't always realize.
Yeah, it's like, it's not just what we say, but like the hidden messages behind the words.
Exactly. Like think about legal contracts, for example.
Okay.
On the surface, they're just agreements, but the language used in these documents is so carefully chosen to influence behavior and create these binding obligations.
It's true.
It's like a subtle form of, linguistic power that shapes our actions in very specific ways.
Yeah. It really makes you think twice about signing on the dotted line, doesn't it?
Right.
So if legal language can have that much power,
Uh-huh.
what about the words that we use, every day in our lives?
Well, think about the concept of neuroplasticity.
Okay.
The brain's ability to change and adapt throughout our lives, and one of the things that drives that is repetition.
Okay.
So the words that we use over and over, whether they're positive or negative, actually shape our neural pathways.
So it's almost like programming our brains with language.
It is.
Like our brains are like computers.
Yeah,
And language is the code.
that's a great analogy.
Which makes sense, especially when you think about how negative self-talk can really drag you down.
Yeah, and it's a really powerful concept because if you constantly tell yourself, I can't, or I'm not good enough,
Right.
your brain actually starts to believe it and you're less likely to even try.
Yeah.
But the good news is it works both ways.
Okay.
By consciously choosing empowering language, you can actually rewire your brain for greater confidence and success.
So instead of saying, I'm a failure, you might say, I'm learning from this experience.
Exactly.
Or, I'm capable of growth or something.
Yeah, reframing that internal dialogue. And it might feel weird at first,
Sure.
but over time, those new phrases become new neural pathways, and that leads to actual changes in your thoughts and behaviors.
It's like we have the power to rewrite our own mental scripts.
We do.
It's pretty empowering.
It is.
But is there any, scientific evidence to support this idea that words can impact our physical reality?
There is some really fascinating research in this area. One example is the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, who studied the effects of words on water crystals.
Wait, you're saying that words can affect water?
That's what his research suggests.
Wow.
He exposed water to different words, both positive and negative, and then froze the water to observe the crystal formations.
Okay.
And he found that words like love and gratitude created these beautiful symmetrical crystals,
Interesting.
while words like hate or anger produced distorted and kind of chaotic patterns.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
But how does that relate to us as humans?
Well, our bodies are mostly water.
That's true.
So it raises some intriguing questions about the impact of our words on our own physical well-being.
So you're saying that our thoughts and words might actually be influencing us on a cellular level?
It's a possibility worth considering.
Wow.
And there have also been studies on plants
Really?
that show very similar results. Plants exposed to kind words and positive music tended to thrive,
Interesting.
while those exposed to negative language didn't grow as well.
Wow. So it's like positive language isn't just about, feeling good.
Right.
It might actually be impacting the world around us in tangible ways.
Exactly. It suggests that the energy we put out into the world, including the energy of our words, can have this ripple effect.
This is all pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But if our words have this much power, how come we're not all living our dream lives? What's holding us back?
Well, I think one reason is simply a lack of awareness.
Okay.
Most people aren't even conscious of the power of their words.
Right.
They're just using language on autopilot without really thinking about the potential impact.
Uh-huh.
And even when we are aware, we might be limited by ingrained beliefs,
Right.
old habits, or even fear.
Fear of what?
Well, fear of change, fear of judgment, fear of truly embracing the power of our own words.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to just stick with what's familiar, even if those patterns are negative,
Right.
than to step into the unknown and explore new ways of speaking and thinking.
So it's almost like we've been conditioned to use language in certain ways,
Yeah.
even if those ways aren't really serving us anymore.
It's a bit like we've inherited this language script and then we just play it out unconsciously throughout our lives.
Interesting.
But the good news is we can choose to rewrite that script.
Okay.
We can become more aware of the language that we're using
Right.
and make conscious choices to align our words with our values and goals.
So it sounds like we're not just talking about individual change here, but also about the power of language to shape society as a whole.
Absolutely. The language used by the media, for instance,
Yeah.
plays a huge role in shaping our understanding of current events and even history.
How so?
Well, think about how news headlines are often framed.
Okay.
The words chosen can evoke really strong emotions
That's true.
and subtly influence how we perceive an event.
Yeah.
For example, labeling a protest a riot versus a demonstration paints two very different pictures in the reader's mind.
Yeah, you're right. The same event can be described in totally different ways, depending on the language used.
Exactly.
It's like they're using words to shape our opinions.
And it's not just headlines either. It's the way stories are framed, the voices that are amplified or silenced.
Right.
All of this contributes to a particular narrative that shapes our understanding of the world.
So in addition to paying attention to our own language,
Right.
we need to be aware of how language is being used to influence us on a larger scale.
Exactly. It's about developing what you might call linguistic literacy. The ability to critically analyze language, to recognize bias, and to understand how words are being used to shape perception.
So it's like we need to become more conscious consumers of information,
Yes.
not just taking everything at face value,
Right.
but really questioning the language being used
Exactly.
to present it.
Precisely by becoming more aware of the subtle ways in which language shapes our perceptions, both individually and collectively, we can start to reclaim our power and use language as a tool for positive change.
This is a lot to take in,
It is.
but is also incredibly empowering.
It is.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic.
We have, and there's so much more to explore, but I think this understanding of the hidden power of language is crucial for anyone who wants to live a more conscious and intentional life.
Well said. Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of language.
So, we've been talking about how language can be used to shape perceptions, not just individually, but, like on a societal level too.
Right.
And that brings us to this important, maybe even unsettling aspect of language.
Okay.
Its potential for control and manipulation.
Oh, that sounds a little ominous.
Yeah.
Are we talking about like propaganda and things like that?
Yeah, that's certainly one aspect of it. Think about how certain words and phrases are used to evoke very specific emotions and create, like a desired response in the audience. Political speeches, for instance, often rely on this carefully crafted language to appeal to voters' hopes and fears, sometimes even bypassing rational thought completely.
So it's like they're using language to kind of like hack into our emotional systems.
In a way, yeah. And this kind of manipulation isn't limited to politics either.
Oh.
It's used in advertising marketing.
Right.
Even in our everyday conversations.
Wow.
We're constantly being bombarded with these messages that are designed to influence our thoughts or feelings, our behaviors, often without us even realizing it.
That is a little unsettling.
It is.
So how do we protect ourselves from that kind of manipulation?
Well, I think one important step is to just become aware of the techniques that are being used.
Okay.
Understanding how language can be used to subtly persuade and influence is so crucial for developing a more critical mindset.
So it's about, recognizing those hidden messages, those subtle ways that words are being used to kind of steer us in a particular direction.
Exactly. Another important concept to understand is the spiral of silence.
Okay.
This theory suggests that when certain viewpoints are consistently presented as dominant or correct by the media, people with dissenting views may be less likely to speak up for fear of social isolation or ridicule.
So it's kind of like a self-reinforcing cycle.
It is.
The media presents a limited range of opinions,
Yeah.
and then people with different views stay silent.
Yeah.
And that just makes the dominant narrative even stronger.
That's the basic idea. And, this silencing of alternative perspectives can have a significant impact on society.
Yeah.
It hinders open dialogue and critical thinking.
Right.
So it's important to remember that the media doesn't always present a complete or objective picture.
Okay.
And seeking out diverse perspectives is so crucial for developing a more balanced understanding of these complex issues.
So in addition to being aware of how language is being used to manipulate us,
yeah,
we also need to actively seek out different viewpoints.
We do.
And be willing to challenge the dominant narrative.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism, questioning assumptions, and engaging in respectful dialogue with those who hold different perspectives.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but, it's worth it.
So is there anything else that we can do
Yeah.
to kind of reclaim our power in the face of this linguistic control?
One powerful tool is to simply become more conscious of the language that we're using ourselves.
Right.
Remember, our words have the power to shape our own thoughts and beliefs.
So instead of just passively absorbing the language around us, we can make a conscious effort to choose words that empower us.
Yes.
And reflect our values.
Precisely. It's about recognizing the power of our own words to create change, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
It makes you realize that language isn't just about communication.
Right?
It's a force that can shape our reality in really profound ways.
And that brings us to a fascinating question.
Okay.
What if the power of language extends beyond our everyday experiences?
Okay.
What if there's a connection between language and the very fabric of reality itself?
Okay, now we're getting into some deep territory.
We are.
You're not talking about quantum physics, are you?
As a matter of fact, I am.
Okay.
Quantum physics has revealed some pretty mind-bending concepts about the nature of reality. For example, the famous double-slit experiment demonstrated that particles behave differently when they're observed, suggesting that consciousness itself might play a role in shaping reality.
I've heard about that experiment.
Yeah.
It's the one where light acts like both a wave and a particle.
Exactly. And if we take this idea a step further,
Okay.
we could speculate that language, a product of consciousness, might also have the ability to influence the quantum field, the fundamental level of reality from which everything emerges.
So you're saying that our words might actually be creating like tiny shifts in the fabric of reality on a quantum level.
It's a fascinating possibility to consider.
It is.
And while it's still a relatively unexplored area,
Right.
there are some intriguing hints that suggest this might be the case. For instance, some studies have shown that positive affirmations and visualizations can have measurable effects on physical health and well-being.
So it's not just about feeling good.
Right.
There might be actual physical changes happening in response to the words we use.
Exactly. It's as if our bodies are responding on this deep, maybe even quantum level to the language that we use.
Wow.
And this opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for how we can use language to create positive change in our lives and in the world.
This is all incredibly thought-provoking.
It is.
But I have to admit, I'm still struggling to wrap my head around this whole quantum physics thing.
I understand.
Can you give me like a more concrete example of how language might be influencing reality on that level?
Sure. Think about the words that we use to describe ourselves and our experiences.
Right.
If we constantly focus on lack, limitation, negativity, we might be inadvertently reinforcing those patterns in our lives.
It's like that old saying, what you focus on expands.
Exactly. But if we consciously choose language that reflects abundance, possibility, gratitude,
we might be shifting our energy and attracting more of those qualities into our experience.
So it's like we're using language to tune into a different frequency.
Yeah.
A frequency that resonates with the reality we want to create.
That's a great analogy. And this shift in language can have a ripple effect influencing not just our own lives, but also the lives of those around us. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been talking about all this heavy stuff.
Yeah.
All these hidden meanings and how language can be used for manipulation.
Right.
And, even the quantum physics stuff.
It's been a journey.
It has.
But, I think it's important to shift our focus now to something a little more practical.
Okay.
How can we actually use language consciously to, heal, to transform, to empower ourselves?
That sounds good because so much of what we've been talking about has felt a little bit heavy. So I'm eager to explore this more positive side of language.
Yeah, it's important to remember that language is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad, right?
Right.
And when it comes to healing and transformation, language can be incredibly powerful.
So can you give me some specific examples of how language can be used in this way?
Sure. One powerful technique is the use of affirmations.
Okay.
These are those positive statements that we repeat to ourselves either out loud or silently to challenge negative beliefs and to reprogram our subconscious minds.
So like instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you might affirm, I am worthy and capable.
Exactly. By repeatedly affirming these positive statements, we can start to shift our mindset and create new neural pathways that actually support our growth and well-being.
It's like we're planting seeds of positivity in our minds.
Yeah.
And those seeds can grow into powerful beliefs.
That's a great way to put it. And, there's another technique that we touched on earlier, visualization.
Oh,
We talked about how it can be used to achieve goals, but it can also be used for this kind of healing and transformation.
How so?
Well, by vividly imagining ourselves in a state of health, wholeness, abundance, whatever it might be, we can activate the same neural pathways that would be activated if those experiences were actually happening.
So our brains can't really tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one.
That's the idea. And when we combine visualization with positive affirmations, we create an even more powerful force for change.
It sounds like we're really tapping into the creative power of our minds to shape our reality.
We are. And there's another important aspect of using language for healing that I want to touch on.
Okay.
The power of gratitude.
Oh, gratitude. How does that tie into language?
Well, expressing gratitude, whether through spoken words, written words, even just heartfelt thoughts, shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have.
So it's about appreciating the good things in our lives.
It is even the small things.
Yeah.
And research has shown that practicing gratitude can have a profound impact on our mental and emotional well-being.
Really?
Reduces stress, boosts happiness, improves physical health.
It sounds like gratitude is a powerful antidote to negativity.
It is, we're constantly bombarded with so much negativity in the world.
Right.
But gratitude is a practice that anyone can cultivate through the conscious use of language.
These are all great techniques, but, it seems like it takes a lot of effort to use language in this way.
Yeah.
How do we make it more natural?
I think it starts with awareness, by paying attention to the words that we use, both internally and externally. We become more conscious of how language is shaping our reality. And once we're aware, we can start to make different choices.
So it's like we're becoming more mindful of our language.
Exactly. It's about developing the sense of linguistic mindfulness, a heightened awareness of the power of our words to heal, to inspire, to transform.
Wow. This has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored the hidden power of language, the ways in which it can be used for good or for bad, and the profound impact it can have on our lives and the world around us.
It's been a pleasure sharing this exploration with you.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that this has inspired you to, pay closer attention to the language that you're using and harness its power to create a more positive and fulfilling reality for yourself and for others.
I know I've learned a lot today, and I'm excited to start putting these ideas into practice. So thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of language.
Yeah.